Welcome to another episode of Crazy Canuck Trucking. Thank you for everybody that has been listening and following along. It's been interesting winter, and it's been a good time here at Crazy Canuck Trucking, and I've been staying busy throughout the winter doing my volunteer work as well as getting stuff ready for the next season of podcasting. And we're going to change things a little bit. I'm going to change things a little bit. So before I get into that, I want to ask everybody to rate and review and share it and listen along, because there's going to be a lot of good for you. There's going to be a lot of inspiring things. There's going to be some news, and that is what some of the changes are going to be now. So up until now, I haven't done a lot of current news. I haven't touched on current things, but I will start doing that a little bit more now. Um, I will touch on some hot topics. I will go over some things that I feel either need more attention or I want to speak about. Um, as you know, or as you may or may not know, I do some monthly column for Today's Trucking, the magazine. You can also find my stuff on trucknews.com. Articles you can search under my name, and I've written a bunch of articles there, and the better ones make it into the print magazine. So I'm thankful to have somebody like that I can do some writing for, and they feel that my opinion is worthwhile getting out, or they're humoring me or something. I don't know. I do have a little different take on many things, so they like that because they don't want just the same thing, and that's part of the Crazy Canuck brand. Crazy Canuck Dave is that things can be a little different, and that's good. That's let's have different opinions. And talking about opinions, there, we're just past a year, a 1 year anniversary of the convoy, and I get asked that question many, many times a year ago. Do you support the convoy? So I wrote an article about that. You can go to trucknews.com and you can search my name, David Henry, and convoy, and you'll find an article I wrote there. Do I support the convoy? So it's a question I got asked all the time and still get asked. So I won't reread the whole article, but you can go there. You can read it. I'm pretty clear. My feelings haven't changed as far as that goes. I completely support everybody's right to protest and to have their voice be heard. And that is something that is severely lacking and has been for many years, is that not everybody's voice is being heard. And that is where I question people. If you are part of the convoy, what have you been doing in the last 20 years? What have you been doing? Have you been speaking up, or have you just been speaking out and complaining, and not talking to people that can make a change? That is part of the reason for what I do, why I write, and why I do my podcast, is because I want to help with change. I want to help people do better. I want people to be inspired. I want people to feel positive energy when they're around me. We all know what the problems are, but let's make things better. Let's work to help each other out. Let's support each other. And so we don't have to come to a point where we need to have a big convoy again. Because if each one of us was speaking up by our actions and what we're doing to help out each other, would we need a convoy? Would we have gotten to that point? I don't know. I mean, we can't say whether it would or would not have helped definitively, but I know that unless we say something to people that can make a change, like complaining about your dispatch to another truck driver, that doesn't help anybody. That doesn't help. That creates tension, that creates negativity. It's a cancer in a company when drivers are negatively talking about their dispatch. Now, so what I'm saying is you need to go and talk to that dispatcher. You need to try and work things out with them. And that's the first place you need to start. And then if you have to climb the ladder, whatever. But you need to do stuff like that. You need to talk to the people that can make the change. If you have a problem with somebody, talk to the person that you have the problem with. It doesn't do anybody any good if you talk to somebody else that cannot help in that situation. If you're talking about somebody to somebody else, that's not going to help. So anyway, that would be a good starting point for this podcast, and we are going to have an amazing guest coming on today. It's something I'm trying to get out as quickly as possible, and you'll hear about that in a few minutes. So please stay tuned, and we are going to discuss some very sensitive stuff today with an amazing lady. So take care and listen along. I want to welcome Kelly to my podcast. Kelly is a person I had no idea about until earlier today. And I was listening to another podcast, Canadian True Crime with Christy. She has an amazing podcast. She covers a case that Kelly was involved in very well. And if you want those details, they will be in the show notes. Deals with sexual assault. So I want to make sure before we get started here that people know that we are going to be talking about sexual assault. We are going to be talking about trauma. And I want you that if it's not a good place for you, then please be careful. Maybe it's not a good one for you to listen to. But if you want to learn a lot, this will be a great podcast for you to learn from and to be inspired. I'm sure you will be inspired by what comes. So I want to welcome you, Kelly. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is a very cool way to spend my evening. We've known each other for 6 hours. So this is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for having me on to speak about publication bans and unwanted gag orders on sexual assault survivors. Like you were saying, like there is going to be discussion on sexual assault here. So please use care when listening. I know that I still kind of get a little nervous when I hear other people's sexual assault stories, so I'd assume that would happen to everyone else either. But yeah.
But I'm really amazed by you, Kelly, and just the strength that you have and the fight that you've put up. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's been a battle. Well,
So,
I mean, sexual assault is just like everybody I know has a story.
yeah.
Like everyone I know has a story to tell. And it sucks because there's too many people that are still very hurt. I mean, when you look at the reported stats on sexual assault, we're aiming between 5 and 10% of all sexual assaults in Canada are reported, meaning 90 to 95 sexual assaults aren't reported. And something like 40% of all women, specifically women, over the age of 15 have experienced sexual assault. And for the Indigenous community, it's at least 2 times higher. And that's a really depressing number. If you think of yourself in like a room of 100 people and 40 of them to 80 of them have been sexually assaulted at some point, holy smokes, like what's going on? Like it shouldn't be that high, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I like everyone I know, everyone that I've met along this journey, um, no two stories are the exact same. And it's nice to hear that. As weird as that sounds, it's nice to hear that. And I think it's because people are starting to open up more about what's happened to them. Um, and when people open up more about what's happened to them, the barriers for, what a perfect victim looks like is broken down, because not everybody is, your typical rape victim, where they're blonde haired, blue eyes, walking home from church on a Sunday afternoon, completely sober, jumped and pushed into a bush, right? They immediately are crying, they immediately go to the police, they immediately do a rape kit, blah 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 blah. That has not happened with anybody that I've met. um you know uh People are just walking home from school and followed by somebody that they know, or they're escorted into their building by a friend, um, or it's somebody that they've been dating, like in my case, or in really horrific cases, it's family members, right? Like everybody is different here. And I think that it's really important that all of us with a story to tell find a way to share those stories, because other people need to know that they're not alone with what they're going through. And when I reported, I reported because I got mad one night. You had listened to the Canadian true crime podcast that came out, and I was willing to, sort of forget my attack, just sort of drop it so I could move on with my life and just focus. And then a week after the attack, I get this text message from him basically saying, "Hey, what's up?" And I'm like, "Are you for real?" Like, do you know why I'm mad? Do you know what's going on? And the anger just kind of went up from there. So it's
That's that's just unreal.
yeah, it's frustrating too, right? I mean, um, I got mad. I got mad enough to call the police that night, and like, I didn't think anything was going to happen. I didn't think that anybody was going to take me seriously, because I reported a week later. I didn't take pictures of my bruises. I didn't keep any of my clothing. I showered right away. I tried, kind of tunnel visioning and moving on with my life as best I could, right? So when the officers came to my house, there was two officers, a male and a female, and the male sort of stood at the door and just hung out in my kitchen while I spoke with the other officer. And she was really cool about it. Like, she's like, "Yep, let me see your phone. Let me take pictures of all these messages that have come in." Um, and I was like, "Okay, well, that's it. That's my work here is done. That's all I have to do." Um, I I thought I'd be another statistic. I thought I'd be another case where I report and nothing happens. Um, and obviously, thankfully, that wasn't the case with me, but that's the case with a lot of people. So of those, let's just round it up to 10, because I'm really bad at math. So of those 10 people that report, only 4 of them will actually go to the inside of a courtroom. And of those 4, 2 will get a guilty verdict. And of those 2, only 1 will receive a jail sentence. Like,
Wow.
the odds are completely stacked against you. Um, and like, I didn't know those stats going into this. And it was one of those, when you're playing a video game, right? And you're like, "Oh, I like, this is it. Like, I can never make it past this one part." And then suddenly you make it past the part, you're like, "Oh, okay, I'm still going in this." That was me for my entire trial, for like, from reporting to the police to actually getting a guilty verdict, because I wasn't supposed to make it that far. No one makes it that far. Like, no one's supposed to make it that far. The system is geared against survivors. And while I'm all for people getting fair trials, I'm 100% for people getting a fair trial. I'm 100% for people having the right to appeal. But the trial was not necessarily about proving his guilt. The trial was about proving my innocence. My character was attacked on stand. I was slut shamed, and I was called a drunk, and I was neither of those things. I don't know how to explain it. Of course, again, like I'm trying to defend myself here, and I can't defend myself because you don't really get a chance to say, wait a second, I'm like, why am I getting blamed for his actions? Why are we not talking about this guy right now? Why are we talking about why I was there that night? you know? Um, One of the things about my case was the night of the second attack, and the one that he received a guilty verdict on. um I've kicked myself about this, like, even now, even where are we now, 8 years later, almost even 8 years later, I still kick myself for not driving that night, for not driving home that night. I had 3 or 4 beer at absolute most over the course of probably 5 hours. I would have been fine to drive. But I knew that if I got caught, I would blow very close to that limit because I was small then. I was probably 130 pounds, give or take, maybe 135. But I couldn't risk that. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't risk driving home. So I opted to stay the night and I got attacked. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, I was sleeping and I was attacked. Um, he denied it. He said I instigated everything. He said that I was the one who was begging for him to come into the room with me. He said that I was asking for cuddles. No, that was not the case. I was I was so mad at him for the night before. There was no way that I wanted anything to do with him. I only stayed over that night because I didn't want to blow over if I had to drive home. And again, like, I've kicked myself about that since the attack happened. Um, so part of the thing that makes my case, I guess, unique, and I guess it's one of the reasons I'm on your show, is because I had a publication ban put on my name without my knowledge or consent. So at the accused's first court appearance, um, which is usually about 6 months, give or take, maybe 4 to 6 months, um, before the Crown actually gets a chance to meet with the victim complainant. Um, a publication ban is a request ordered by the Crown or a victim, requesting a full ban on publication. So no broadcasting the person's name, no identifying anything that could identify the victim. You cannot do. So no saying their name, no, certainly no saying like they survived a sexual assault, no, nothing like that. The issue is that when this happens, the judge has no discretion. So the judge can't say, I disagree with what you're doing. He or she has to say, yes, I grant the ban. The ban is now on that person's name.
Has to?
Has to, yeah. It becomes the judge has to if the Crown requests it, which is wild to me because nobody requested anything from me. So the judge has no discretionary power, so the ban becomes mandatory basically right away. But there's no legal obligation for the courts or the Crown to advise the victim complainant that a ban is on their name. It's like an optional courtesy, essentially. If Crown, remembers to do it eventually. Now, having said that, I love my Crown. My Crown is an awesome human being. He works so hard on my case. I am not mad at the Crown or the representation that I had. I am mad at the law because there's no reason that I shouldn't be warned about a ban on my name, not to mention the fines for breaching this ban. I've faced 2 years in jail or a $5,000 fine just for saying my name is Kelly and I was sexually assaulted.
It's ridiculous.
Right? It was so frustrating too because I didn't know about this ban for 5 years. Excuse me. So he was charged in November of 2015, and in December of 2020, just days before Christmas, I found out about this ban on my name. And because it's Christmas time, courts are closed. Crown certainly isn't replying to emails. I can't find any information. So I've got to sit on this for like a month until people come back to work. So I start researching, like, what the hell is a publication ban? What does this even mean? There's not a lot of information. There's
I
not much.
can I can understand, like, there is a place for publication bans, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But um and I didn't get something clear beforehand. You were not an 18-year-old girl at the time this happened, or
Yeah, no,
17.
it certainly wasn't. I was 31 when this happened. I was just shy of turning 32. So under the Canadian Criminal Code is section 486.4. The ban, even though the ban is worded in there to like protect somebody under the age of 18, it still applies to those over 18 as well, but it doesn't really say that super clearly. Um, and I want to stress as well, I am all for publication bans. I completely agree that publication bans can protect a person. They can shield them from the public. They can do a lot of wonderful things. What what I'm fighting for is consent, is for someone to do a knowledge transfer to their client and say, this is what a publication ban is. This is how it protects you. This is how it can backfire. Here's what your options are. Do you want to keep it or do you want to get rid of it? Shouldn't be that hard.
If it's that easy, if the judge has no discretion, it should be that easy to go back to that judge with your crown and the crown say, lift the ban.
Yeah.
And the judge should have no discretion and get the ban lifted.
Yeah, and I would love that too. I would love that because there is actually a part in the victims' rights, the Victims' Bill of Rights, where it actually says if you want a publication ban removed, the process is you can totally do it. Like there's no problem unless there's a really good reason why you shouldn't have the ban removed. It's frustrating because in British Columbia, we have this thing called Court Services Online.
Yeah.
And it was, so I'll refer to it as the CSO. And you can look up anybody's name. Like I could type in your name and find all this stuff out about you if you've ever had a criminal record in British Columbia. It's not supposed to be used as a criminal record check, but like it's the closest that we can get to seeing if the people that we're hanging out with are violent offenders. Now, the other thing is that it's not really just necessarily about like rumors and gossip and whatever. The cases that are posted to the CSO have already resulted in a guilty verdict. So we're talking about people who have already been proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, or you can receive information on pending court cases. You can see where the status is, right? Everybody in Canada is presumed not guilty until they're proved guilty. Again, like it's not supposed to be used as a criminal record check, but more and more women are popping on the CSO and seeing if the guy that they met on Tinder has violent tendencies towards anybody, right? The CSO shows other violent crimes, so like uttering threats or robbery. There's even murder charges that pop up on there. But sexual assault, oh no, wait, we can't put that on there. That might ruin his career. Like people are so worried about hypothetical reputation damage that victims can't even like attribute to their own stories, and they can't get justice. They can't seek justice from outside of those areas because, you know, God forbid you end up saying that some dude's a rapist, right? And it turns out he is. The stats are ridiculous on false claims because I know that that's probably going to come up with a lot of your listeners and your viewers. But let's go back to that 10% of people who report. The 10% of people who actually report to police, only something like 0.8% of those are deemed as unfounded. Like, and unfounded means straight up there's no proof. Like this is obviously something that was made up. This is malicious, right? But that number works out to be less than one person. It's like it's insane. And these stats that I'm quoting are well available on the Stats Canada website as recently as 2017. We are waiting for the Stats 22 to come out, but man, oh man, like we need to really start taking sexual assault quite a bit more seriously, because you know not only are people getting hurt as you know from being sexually assaulted, but now we have these unwanted gag orders on us. And we can't say our names without risking going to jail. Now, the person who attacked me received an 18-month conditional sentence to be served in his home. So,
18-month.
18
18
months.
months in his own home?
Yep. So yeah, I know, isn't that wild? So he attacked me for 2 hours.
And his fine was
$100.
$100. Wow, that was a real penalty.
Yeah, he certainly learned his lesson. Um, Now the thing is that during his sentence, I don't even like calling it that because it wasn't a sentence. He got to do his hard time when he was sleeping, for crying out loud. Um, but during that course of 18 months, every 6 months, he would get another chunk of time that he was allowed to be out of the house for. So his chunk of time ranged from like 2 hours a day to run errands to 6 hours a day to run errands, plus going to work, right? Plus like your transport time and all that. So he was literally serving his sentence from like 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. on some days. Where are you
Wow.
between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m.? I'm in my bed because I'm old. Like I'm asleep at that point. But
Wow.
like you just want to bash your head against the wall. And so when the trial was completed, when the verdict was out, when sentencing was done, I was like, thank God this is over because I don't want to do this again. Like I'm like this is horrible. Whatever, I'll accept the sentence as it is. I'm just happy that he's doing some time. Like I thought the sentence was a little weird. His fine was certainly laughable, but it still hit his wallet at some point, right? Um, but the fines for me just saying my name, like you and I would not be able to have this conversation as of, oh my goodness, between 2015 and when I got the ban off in June 2021, you and I couldn't talk about this. You would have to blur my face out. I certainly could not have my name at the bottom of my picture, my profile there. Um, I couldn't even tell you I was sexually assaulted. How is
Wow.
that right?
Even though I don't know the other person?
Yes. Yeah. The
So
ban is
even though if you're a complete stranger to me and we met at a group therapy session, you could not say I was sexually assaulted.
if it was group therapy, I probably would have breached it anyway. But I mean, I probably would have used a fake name. I would have said, "Hi, my name is Barbara," or and this is my story, because that way I'm not identifying myself. But like the thing is that killed me is that I couldn't even go online. Like I'm not too sure what you guys have in Manitoba, but in on Vancouver Island, we have these sort of Facebook pages that are dedicated to bad dates, and it's not like we're trashing anybody. We're just saying, hey, watch out for this guy because he got super grabby with me, or hey, watch out for this guy because he put a fist through the wall. I couldn't go on one of those message boards and say, hey, watch out for this guy. He was convicted of sexually assaulting me. I'd have to post anonymously. And my whole logic behind that was like, why the hell should I have to hide my name? He's the asshole here. Like, I've done nothing wrong. So that was one of the reasons I started fighting so hard. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, his his name is hidden because I have a ban on my name. And certainly he's not about to introduce himself as, hi, my name is Ken and I'm a convicted sex offender. No one's saying that when they're going on a Tinder date. Like your date would run out the door immediately. The only way that somebody would know that he's a convicted sex offender is if he told them.
Wow.
Like, it's frustrating.
So let's get to exactly what you're trying to do. You have a petition that you're trying to get signatures on. Um, First of all, how many signatures do you need? How much time do you have? And exactly what are you trying to change?
Right. So we've surpassed our goal of 500. We're
Okay.
sitting about 3,000 right now. However, there is strength in numbers, and we need the more signatures, the better, because it means that the government then has to pay a lot of attention to what we're doing. The petition closes just after 9 a.m. on Friday, March the 10th Eastern time. And the times are a little finicky, right? The petition number, if you search E-4192, you will find a petition online. You can also go to tinyurl.com/hub ban petition, and that'll link you immediately to the petition itself. Now, as for what we're calling for, This petition is calling for survivors of, adult complainants of sexual offenses. It's really important that we have the adult part in there. Adult complainants of sexual offenses be given the courtesy of being told that a ban is going to go on their name, and ask them if they want a ban on their name as well. We also want a simple process for removing the ban. One of the suggestions that we had was putting like a little checkbox on the victim impact statement form saying, I know what a publication ban is. It has been explained to me. I want one or I don't want one. We also want to make sure that for the people who currently have this ban on their name, who currently cannot identify themselves, stop fining them, stop sending them to jail. Right now, we only know of one case from Waterloo where this made national attention, where she was actually fined $2,000 for breaching her own publication ban, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, I think Christy on Canadian True Crime talked about that, right?
Yeah, she did. And, the more that you dive into it, like the ban, so she shared a transcript of her court documents with her friends, like a small group of friends and some close family, about her ex-husband who sexually assaulted her. So, like, everybody knew the parties involved, right? But because she shared the document, she was in breach of her own ban. But the stupid thing is that if these people were sitting inside the courtroom with her, they would have known it was her anyway. They would have gotten all that information, but there would have been nothing, like there would have been no penalty for that. Anyway, so the ban ended up getting overturned on a technicality. So it wasn't even because the Crown's like, no, this is stupid, we're not prosecuting anybody for this. It was paperwork that it got overturned on.
And was it overturned, or did they like? Is it fair to say that they were just trying to find something to try and save face?
No, I truly believe that the ex-husband and the lawyer was an absolute piece of garbage. From what I understand, their divorce was incredibly messy. It was a fairly violent relationship. It was a fairly violent sexual assault. He was doing everything that he could to make her life as challenging as possible, and he did. I know. I'm like, even just saying the words out of my mouth, like I'm shaking my head, like, how the hell is this even a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we're
So
hoping. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
with something I haven't really thought about before, but with a publication ban, how come there's any people in the courtroom in the first place then? Like a true publication ban, there should be no spectators and just the lawyers and the people directly involved. And if there's any witnesses, they're only in for the time that they say their piece.
Yep. I wish I had an answer to that. I know specifically with my case, there was, your standard court people, like the transcriptionist, the judge, the bailiff, the Crown, the defense, the accused, who was sitting probably 8 feet from me the entire time. I could hear him breathing. That was really crappy. And I was allowed to have a friend in with me, and somebody from the Victoria Sexual Assault Center that would help sort of explain the court process. I I don't remember who else would have been in that room, but I can still vision sitting in that room. And I was so focused on just what was in front of me that I don't know if anyone else was in the room that wasn't supposed to be there. I don't think he brought any support with him. I couldn't imagine supporting somebody going through a trial like that, but it it doesn't make a lot of sense to me either. There's not a lot about this law that makes a lot of sense, and it kills me because if you actually look up this law, so it's triple C 46.4, it is one line. It is one sentence with like maybe 20 words in it that has caused this much pain and this much damage, and it's taken 8 years of my life to fix.
And I was going to ask you about the stats on false reporting, and that's really something like 0.8%, I
Of
think you
all
said,
reported,
of
of
all
all reported.
reported, which is already like 4% or 5%. So 0.8% of 5%.
right? And like that's the thing that's really important to remember here as well, is that there's a difference between telling your friends you were assaulted and reporting to the police. And what I'm specifically speaking of is reported assaults,
Yes.
which I think is really important to stress for anybody
Yes.
listening, right?
Yeah.
But that number is so pathetically low. Like that 0.8% is so pathetically low. This is why we want people to believe others when they come forward and say, "Hey, somebody hurt me," because they're trusting you with a very horrible part of their life. Um, it was not easy. Like I still, oh my goodness, it took me 6.5 years to be able to say Ken's name. I couldn't say it. Like I couldn't say it without like going like that. Like there's trauma there, and you can tell when somebody has trauma. Um, it's just so important to listen to people when they come forward. Just one other thing I just kind of want to touch on that might help your listeners. So, sorry. This cold is awful. Um, one of the things that is incredibly frustrating about this publication ban is because nobody was allowed to know who he was because the ban was on my name. So when he was released, when his really hard time was all done, um, he was free, right? Like he was completely free. There was nothing in his conditions of parole basically saying where he could and couldn't live. So Victoria is a really small city. It's a walkable city. You can get from point A to point B in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Um, when Ken was released, he moved 90 meters away from the Victoria Sexual Assault Center, and he was allowed to live there. Like that blew my mind.
Wow.
That absolutely blew my mind. And I found that out. And again, like these are allegations, and I need to stress that for you so that you don't get sued and so that I don't get sued. But a woman found me in a survivors forum shortly after I went public with my publication ban removal. And she's like, I think the same person assaulted me. And she asked me a very specific question um, that you would only know if you were attacked in the same way. And at this time, none of the details of my case were ever public. I never published anything. But she asked me a question that was very specific, and I was like, oh my God, it happened to you. And this happened 4 months after he was released from custody. She did everything right. She looked him up on the CSO. She found nothing on him because the ban was on my name and thus shielded his. She did eventually report it to police. There is a police file number on this. However, charges went nowhere. They didn't say it was unfounded. She wasn't one of those 8%, but they just said there's just not enough evidence. We just can't do anything here.
4 months after he was released from
Yeah.
his very harsh time.
It was super, super hard jail time,
If
yes.
you didn't get it, listeners, that was sarcasm.
Right. Yeah. I was livid when I heard about this. Like just like seeing red. Like just it was so infuriating.
So
Um,
that publication ban helped him assault somebody else again
yeah.
because
Allegedly, say allegedly.
allegedly,
Yeah.
because his name was not put on the CSO because your name was under the publication ban.
Yep. And because we could be linked to each other somehow. We were only dating 6 weeks.
A 6 week, yeah,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. I mean, I if like I
Talk
want to
about
bash my
protecting, talk about protecting the wrong people.
no doubt, right? It's insane. And I'm sure that your listeners are super frustrated and like just want to put their fists through a wall right now because that's how I felt. Now there is kind of a happy ending to this. So with the petition, um, the government actually has to give me a formal response to the petition. So 500 signatures was the absolute minimum, but again, like there's power in numbers. So if we have thousands of signatures, they just won't do a copied and pasted, thank you so much for your petition. We appreciate your time. Like one of those, tin can responses. They'll actually have to respond to us. Um,
Nice.
yeah, which is really good. Now the other thing as well is that in October, a small group of survivors and co-founders of myvoicemychoice.org went to Ottawa, and one of our members was invited to present to the Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights to speak on the obligations to victims of crime report. And two of our recommendations actually made it into the report that got tabled in the House on December 1st, 2022. So David Lametti, who's our Attorney General, has to give an official response to that on May 1st in the House. So May 1st, 2023, we will find out just how seriously he is taking this stuff. So cross your fingers.
I will. I'll keep my fingers crossed and hope that I, you know, I, yeah, I really hope it works out.
Me too.
So I want to ask a question here. How, and this is maybe a little bit off the wall, but why is it that we as people, when we're in some of these situations, why do we not report it? Why do we try to hide it? Why do we try to keep it quiet? Because it's not just with sexual assault or other things. We just don't bring these things out into the light.
Yeah, I think I mean, I think that it has to do with a lot of self-victimization. Like, did I let this happen to me? Is this my fault that this happened? Um, I just want to just to the first part of your question. If you ask any woman who has ever reported to the police, if you ask them, was when you reported to police the very first time that you were assaulted, they're gonna say no. And I mean, I was assaulted twice before I reported what Ken did to me. The first time I was assaulted, I was 15, and I was groomed by somebody who was 24. And like, I recognize that now. And I certainly hope he recognizes what he did. And I didn't report that because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get my friend in trouble. Which is such a weird thought pattern to have. And the second time that I was assaulted, I tried reporting to police immediately after it happened. I called the police as soon as I was able to, and I said, hey, this happened to me. And they came back to me. They got to my house real quick. And they're like, yeah, but he said he didn't. And he's a family man, and you're a 19-year-old bartender. So what do you know? So, I
Wow.
mean, our responses, like, yes, there is a trauma-informed approach now to how we deal and how we react to sexual assault survivors, but there's still such a long way to go. And again, if you ask any person in their life, if you reported your sexual assault, was it the first time you were sexually assaulted? No. I guarantee you they're gonna say no. There's just shame behind it, and there shouldn't be shame. We've done nothing wrong. Like, it doesn't matter what we wore. It doesn't matter what we drank. It doesn't matter what we said. It doesn't matter, you know, if we were flirting earlier in the middle of the night. You need consent. You need consent every time. If somebody takes that away from you, I mean, that's part of the problem here. That's why we're here. Um, I wish that people would stop blaming themselves when they're hurt, because it's not their fault. It's not their fault at all. We still have a long way to go with that too. But I'm really hopeful that by doing advocacy work and with the group of people that I'm associated with, I'm really hoping that we can start breaking down those walls and get people to acknowledge that, you know, sexual assault can happen to anybody, regardless of gender, but it does happen to women more often. Yeah, it's a frustrating time to be a woman. I know that in October, the Supreme Court of Canada ruled that automatically putting somebody on the sex offender registry list if they were convicted of a sexual assault is technically against their charter rights, which is baffling to me. Like, if you're convicted of a sexual assault, you should be on the sex offender list. Like, let's make that
That's the
perfect,
definition of it.
right? Yeah, exactly. So basically, there was this case in Edmonton, where this guy managed to successfully argue. It freaking blows my mind. He managed to successfully argue that what he did technically wasn't that bad. I'm rolling my eyes here, by the way. What he did wasn't technically that bad because he didn't actually rape anybody. He just groped somebody. So because he was convicted of groping several people who were asleep in a house one night, um, he's not on the he successfully managed to argue that he should not be on the sex offender list. Like,
Wow.
and it blows my mind. I mean, sexual assault is sexual assault, full stop. And the thing is that we're not, like, our country as a whole is not sending people to jail for, grabbing somebody's boob or sneaking in a kiss that they weren't wanting to, like a mistaken kiss or something like that. I hate even saying those words, but do you know what I mean? Like, our country is not sending those people to jail. Our country is barely sending people who'd like tie people up and try to rape them for 2 hours to jail. Like, those people aren't going to jail.
Yours didn't.
Mine didn't, right? Like, he served a sentence when he was sleeping. It makes sense. But yeah, so it seems as though every time we get 2 steps forward, we get 1 step back. So 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And that's been ongoing for so long with sexual assault survivors that we just kind of laugh at this point. Like, the group that I'm affiliated with, like, we're just like, okay, what are we dealing with today? Okay, good, let's go.
What how many women?
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, the stat that I popped out earlier, everyone, or sorry, women specifically over the age of 15 have reported a bad sexual encounter. So 40% of women. I think that number is higher, to be honest. I have a lot of girlfriends in my circle. I think there's only one that doesn't have a story, and if she does have a story, she hasn't told me. But every single woman I know has a story to tell. That number is too high. They're probably all nodding their head right now, saying like, yeah, I do have a couple of stories actually. Yeah, I do know quite a few people who have a story. And it's weird because, everybody knows a woman with a story, but nobody knows a guy with a story. Like, nobody knows a guy that's been charged with this stuff. Like, come on. Like, the numbers are so strange with this too, right?
And it really bugs me when people say, "Oh, this younger generation, this younger." No, no. Yeah, there's some things that are different, but kids are smarter than ever.
Yeah.
Kids are as energetic as ever, but their energy is going into some different ways. But they are more caring about other people and about their environment than many of the older generations.
Yep.
And so I just wanted to make sure we got this back on air, that talking about the younger people, and you're included in, I mean, you're 15 years younger than me,
Oh.
but you know, you can go on some more about that it's amazing what young people are doing today.
Yeah, it's really nice to see people taking an interest in well, and I think it's important to recognize that just because the younger generation is coming out and saying, hey, this isn't right, or this is who I am, or this is what we need to be focusing on. It's not that these people didn't exist before. It's not that these people weren't part of your generation. It just wasn't, and I'm using bunny quotations here, but like, it just wasn't okay
Yep.
to do that. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And I'm glad that times are changing because it means that, your grandbabies are going to grow up to be just incredible human beings. My kids are going to grow up to be incredible human beings. And they're going to have so much more compassion and empathy for others that they encounter as well.
Yeah.
Especially because we are so open about speaking with trauma. I mean, the education that you received in high school is probably very different from what I received in high school, and what my daughter is going to experience when she eventually gets to high school as well. I mean, my
Yeah.
my partner and I were talking about what sex ed classes were like way back, because we had a surprise baby. So we're like, well, where did we go wrong with this? But like his sex ed class was, this is a banana, this is a condom, don't have sexual around in your life. Okay, get out of my classroom. Everybody gets an A. I don't want to talk about this anymore. And then my sex ed was like, this is what a period is, this is a condom, and this is an STD. Don't have sex, you'll ruin your life, you're gonna get pregnant. That's gonna be the end of that. But now what they're teaching in British Columbia, and I'm really super glad that our province had this legislation introduced. They're teaching consent now. They're teaching about what consent looks like. Now, could you imagine when you were in high school, if you got a consent class? That probably
No.
would apply, right?
Oh, no, no, no.
No, exactly. But I mean, there are more people speaking out now, because I mean, I wasn't taught what consent was. I had no idea. I didn't even know that females were supposed to have orgasms. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not taught this stuff. Um, but it was wild just watching the transition between where we were and how far we've come now. It's really nice to see. And it's like that across with, all topics, right? History, art, science, English, whatever. Like, we're talking about more things that you weren't really talking about before. So it's good. This is how society progresses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It I like strength in women, and my wife is very good that way. She's very strong. She thinks she hasn't been strong enough sometimes, and she's right. And it's been a learning process because we're from that age where I get reminded about that, you know,
That's
but
hilarious.
she's she's done a good job of being a strong woman,
Good.
and we need to, every one of us needs to stand up for herself. We need to make the changes where we can make them, and talk to the people that can make the changes, not just, I mean, it's one thing if you just talk to me or talk to other people, but that's not going to change the law. You need to
Yeah.
go to the people that change the law. That's why you're doing this petition. That's why you're petitioning the government, because they can make the change.
Yeah. And
That is the difference between somebody that's just complaining and somebody that wants to change things for the better.
absolutely. We got very lucky. MP Laurel Collins is based out of Victoria, and she's a survivor herself. So this was really important, and I don't believe she ever reported her assault, as most of us don't, right?
Yeah.
But she was very interested to take this on and be a voice for us in the federal government. We have support at the provincial level as well. Former Parliamentary Secretary Grace Lohr was very interested to speak with us. I had a meeting with the Attorney General's office, the BC Attorney General's office, sorry, once at the end of September and once just a couple of days ago, just to try to figure out where we are and to get updates. We are pushing this as hard as we can, because we know that, excuse me, there's probably thousands of people who have this ban on their name and have no idea. And that's a really scary thought to have, because this law came into effect in, like, oh my goodness. Oh, it was like the mid 80s, late 80s, somewhere around there. Um, sorry. It was around the mid to late 80s, and it was actually around the time where, because you could sexually assault your spouse until like 1984 and it'd be fine. Like, that was just part of marriage, right?
Yeah.
This law came about to encourage people to come forward and to speak up. If you are offered protection and you can't be identified, we want you to come and speak with the justice system. Times have changed, right? It's 35 years later. Let's talk about, advocacy and support rather than protection, because protection isn't working for everybody anymore,
Yeah.
right? People want to talk about this. People want to be able to say, hey, this happened to me and I'm okay. So if it happened to you too, like, I understand the process. Like, let's talk about this. Let's be friends about this. Um, but the law hasn't kept up with where we are now. And there's no easy way to get this ban off of your name. So I'm the first person in British Columbia's history to get the ban off their name by self-representing in court. So I didn't have a lawyer, I didn't have a media person. I had like it was during COVID, so like we had to do like a conference call, like I couldn't actually go to court. And I remember sitting on my bed and I had all of these pages lined up with all of these talking points, like things that I had to bring up like during the hearing. And I was like, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. Like, I'm a bartender by trade. Like, I'm not supposed to know this. What the hell? But I mean, it ended up working, right?
Yeah.
Um, but
Wow.
there's no information online about how to remove this ban. There's
Yeah.
none. Like, I had to figure it out all on my own. I thankfully had um, a lawyer who was very, very nice, help me write the affidavit, and it was right at the end of sorry, that's not the right terms. I was right before the trial or the hearing actually started for the publication ban removal, and I hit a wall and like I can't do any more paperwork. Like I'm done because every time that I submitted a new form, there was another form that they forgot to tell me about. I'm like, how many bloody forms are there? And why don't you have this organized in like a file for people like me yet? Um, but yeah, there's no information about how to remove a ban. One of the women that I'm working with, her lawyer didn't even know how to remove the ban. like, it's like,
Well, and from what I heard on Canadian True Crime, not even the judges and the RCMP, none of them knew what to do.
no,
That
and
was
that's
part of
the
your
thing.
problem. You kept taking all these steps, filling out this paper. Oh no, now we need this. Oh no, now we need that. And it was a 5 year, 6 year long battle for this.
Yeah,
Five year for the ban itself, right?
yeah. So 5 years, I didn't know a ban was on my name for 5 years, and then it took about um 7 or 8 months, I guess 7 months for me to get the ban off. But like every other week, I was filling out a new form, and
Yeah.
then I asked for my trial, or sorry, my hearing to be released because I had the ban off my name. Like I had a piece of paper that says you can say your name, which is stupid. Like I shouldn't have a piece of paper that says I can say my name. Um, but I was asking the courts, I'm like, can we please release this hearing? People need to cite this. Like this set a precedent with me being the first person to remove it by themselves. This set a precedent. People need to quote this. And it turned into oh my goodness, about an 18-month battle with the courts just trying to get my case information released. And I remember I asked for my case information just for a copy of the transcript, and it took them a year to get back to me, like almost a year to the day. And they're like, "Do you still need this?" Yeah, I would. I
Crazy.
would. I would actually still need this. Yes, please. Thank you. And then it was only in December of 2022 that I got a copy of the hearing where it basically says a sexual assault survivor deserves the right to their name if they express that they don't want a ban on their name, they shouldn't have a ban on their name. Like
Yeah.
that's it. But the crazy thing is that during this hearing, they actually called Ken and they were like, "So she's trying to get the ban off her name. Do you want to say something about this?" Ban's on my name. Why is he getting to say? What's going
And of
on?
course, he's going to say, "Oh no, keep it on," because then my name doesn't come up either.
Exactly. So he got pissed off because I guess somebody I did tell a friend that I was sexually assaulted, and she took it upon herself to find this guy on Facebook and I guess sent him a message saying like you're a piece of crap or something, like, which is justified. Um, but he brought that up at the hearing and was like, I'm getting harassed on social media. Like, I don't think that the ban should come off my name or off her name because I don't want to get harassed anymore. Maybe don't sexually assault people. I don't know. Don't want to be if you don't want to be, called out for shitty behavior, don't do crappy things.
I, there's so much good with what you're doing,
Thank you.
and the way you present things. It's just thank you very much for coming on. You're an amazing, strong person, and your children will follow in your footsteps and will be that strong person, and others that see you and hear you are going to also be incredibly inspired by you. And I'm going to say, I'll make a few remarks here. Um, thank you everybody for listening along, and please check out the show notes. We're going to have information in the show notes, how you can be involved or how you can show support or what you can do to help out. And it's a pretty emotional thing. Um, thank you very much, Kelly, for coming on. You are, like I said, you're going to continue to be such an inspiration to other people. Do you have any final thoughts as we close off here?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on your show and giving this additional platform to get the word out to everybody. This isn't just about, sexual assault survivors wanting to say their name. Like this has come down to, us having control over our own lives. This is something that we don't really see sexual assault survivors get a chance to do. Usually, we just go home and we heal. But this is now in the hands of the public to make sure that our voice can be strong and our voice can be echoed, and to give us a chance to have our name back, because it's really important that we're able to share our stories so that we encourage others to also be open and share their stories as well. Everybody has a story to tell, and
Yes.
everybody has trauma. I sincerely hope for all of your listeners, if someone has hurt you, it is not your fault. If someone has touched you inappropriately, you did nothing wrong. If you choose to report your case, please take advantage of all the services that are available. If you choose to not report your case, that's okay too. Just take care of yourself and be an ear for those who need it at the time that they need it. So thank you again for having me on your show. I very much appreciate it. Thank you again to your listeners for their support too.
That's an amazing way to wrap up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate it.